Welcome to the Sample Chapter Podcast, the show where authors read a sample chapter from one of their books. Here's your host, Jason A. Meiske.
Hello, Sample Chapter listeners. This is episode 238 of the show, and we are back this week for part 2 with author Shanti Hersenson, returning for her reading. And it's a great reading, and it's a great book. If you will, imagine a school like Hogwarts, except instead of a school of magic, this is a school with state-of-the-art tech, all intended for the arts. It sounds amazing, to be honest with you. And if you want to hear more about the book itself, what went into it, and what more, more of the setup behind it all, make sure you go back one episode to 237, the interview with Shanti Hersenson. You can hear all about this book and what else she's been up to since she was last here. Don't forget to also click the link in our show notes for everything Shanti and our podcast friends over at Pop Culture Network, where they have about half a dozen other shows that are all pop culture related. We also have a affiliate link down there for Writer's Block coffee with 3 delicious flavors, and you can save yourself 10% if you make an order for that. And make sure you are hitting that subscribe button on whatever podcast platform that you're listening to the show on. Hey, if you have an author suggestion, or maybe you are an author and you have a book you would like to suggest for the show, make sure you reach out to me at samplechapterpodcast@gmail.com. You can also follow the show and reach out to me on social media. We're available on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. It's just the Sample Chapter Podcast. Very easy to find. And we post on there, not as much as I used to, but I'm trying to get better about that again and post regularly, especially on Tuesdays, of course, when the episode comes up. I want to share that. And then I like to do a Throwback Thursday where I tend to select a theme. Like, okay, this week is sci-fi, and then here's some of my sci-fi authors of the past, or poetry, or maybe romance, or Western, or even the weird. Lots of things like that. So that's a lot of fun to sit down and come up with. I'm actually about to leave town, so I don't know if I'll have a chance to do that this week, but we'll see. If I get a moment before I leave, I will make sure and do that. But suffice to say, I'm working on managing my time with not only the show, but also my writing schedule, because I'm just itching to do more writing here recently. Bandit 2 has just kind of stagnated of late, which totally sucks, because I'm right at the end of it, and I need to get it done. There's a lot of people asking about it, and including myself, like, hey, where is it? What's going on? So, do you ever have that feeling? Do you ever suffer with your writing like I do, where you just get to a point where you're just like, oh my gosh, who am I? What am I doing? It reminds me of a quote from this episode with Shanti when she says, "We love the words, but doubt that they love us." And man, that really struck me, and was something that I was like, man, I can relate to that. Anyway, without further ado, how about we go ahead and hop on over to a wonderful reading with Shanti Hersenson. Hello, Sample Chapter listeners. Hey, we are back, and this is part 2 of our series with Shanti Hersenson. Make sure you go back to last week's episode and hear the interview with her. It's so wonderful getting to catch up with her and hearing everything she's been up to and all the amazing books. Oh my gosh, so many books to go in and check out. But this week we are here with her, and she is all ready to go. We're going to hear a sample chapter from her latest book, The Bane of Angelfall Academy. So without further ado, I'm going to hand the floor over to my guest, Shanti Hersenson.
All right, thank you so much. So this is the first chapter of The Bane of Angelfall Academy. Here we go. The letter arrived after fistfuls of crumpled paper and dried tears. Earlier that day, Devin Serrano had been struggling to write an informative essay assigned by her school to complete and turn in over the summer. Now she could hardly give it much thought. The frustration, the anger, the disappointment, everything that came along with being a failed writer, and soon to be 6th grader, still stung even as she pushed away from her cluttered desk. Her desk was overwhelmed with failed writing assignments and her own personal writing projects that were never finished. For Devin loved words, but she was not quite sure if words, and creativity, loved her. She was beginning to lose hope. If the letter had arrived, that would only mean one thing: rejection. But Devon, still barely hanging on to hope, would be okay with that. She swore to be okay with it, whatever the outcome. She exited her picturesque bedroom and crept down the hall. The doorbell rang once more, a sign that she, as usual, was late. She passed through the intricate halls of her home, lined with bookshelves and artwork, her parents' doing, for sure. "Devon, are you coming?" Her father's rushed voice sounded in her ear. "We've got to open the door. This news. It's a make or break for your future, huh?" Devon nervously giggled. I'm coming. The joy she pretended to feel was a mask for her worry. An acceptance letter paved the way to a future she wasn't entirely sure she wanted. Could she really belong in such a place? But it was the only way. If she didn't get accepted, staying home would be decidedly more miserable. "Devon Serrano, get down here." It was her mother's voice that she heard next. Her mother, Mariko Serrano, who had penned more science fiction stories and more graphic novels than Devon could ever picture being possible, always seemed to be in a hurry. This was no exception. Devon nearly came crashing down the stairs, 2 at a time, then 3, then she tripped. Her bare feet skidded across the wood floor, hands outstretched towards the marble foyer. At last, she fell to her knees in front of her parents. "Hey," she greeted, timidly elongating the word. She stood up and then proceeded to wonder, is it the letter? Her father nodded. "Yes, Dev, it's here." As time ticked by, she found herself fighting off feelings of both excitement and alarm. Apprehension, for sure. Well, the doorbell rang again. It was Devon this time that stepped towards the door, unlocked it, and pulled it open. Devon's heart sank. "Oh my goodness," she squeaked. There, sitting atop her family's welcome mat, was a book, if it could even be called that. She grasped it in her hands, turning it over and over again. Her fingernails were torn from biting at them, the inside of her cheek pained from chewing. Her arms were trembling. Every part of her was a swirl of nervous emotions. "Devon," it was her brother's voice, coming from behind her. "What is it? What is it?" Her brother, Dorian, who by the age of 9 was already writing beautiful prose, joined them in the anticipation. "It's the letter," Devon explained. "You know the one." She inspected the book again, realizing it was shaped more like a box, and on the side, fused where the page should have been, was a button. She pressed it without thinking. The cover of the book sprang open, revealing a single item within. A letter. She opened it and read the heading before anything else. Angelfall Academy for the Writer's Mind. Angelfall. The school where the nation's most talented young writers went, and where most only dreamed of going. That school, it was a wonderland. Devon had gone on the campus tour and had been allowed to visit the school's grand opening, only because her parents were requested to speak there, though, and now going there would mean a number of things, but Devon was still certain she would not get in. Her eyes finally wandered to the part she was required to read, and then her heart pulsed. She slapped a hand over her mouth. The words, as usual, did not come. Instead, all that floated from her lips was a quiet gasp. "Read it aloud," her mother ordered. "Yes, Deb," said her father. "Tell us, please." Her mind was blank. Perfectly, utterly blank. Well, she began with a sigh, eyes scanning the letter. "It says—" "Oh, come on!" Dorian began to reach for the page, trying to steal it from her hands. "If you are going to be so slow, I'll read it myself." Devon willingly handed it to him, considering she was unable to formulate the proper words herself. "That's fine," she said. "Dear Miss Serrano," he proceeded to skip over the majority of the letter. "We are pleased to offer you admission to the 2023 to 2024 school year as a 6th grade student at Angelfall Academy. The realization, a combination of fear and pure relief, came crashing down upon Devon like a tidal wave. For she would, in fact, attend Angelfall Academy after the final weeks of summer ended. But would she belong? Devon could not answer such a question. "I got in," she said, finally letting out a breath. Her mother gasped in her hands, and an overjoyed smile tugged at her lips. "You got in," Devon's father exclaimed, relieved and repeating himself. "You got in." To Devon, the most appealing thing about the school was not the endless opportunities provided for young writers, nor was it the focus on a subject she was beginning to give up on. Rather, Devon was enthusiastic solely because of the design of the school. Of course, on the bottom of the letter, in a crisp print, was a photo detailing the school's campus. The school itself was made up of 3 buildings filled with endless winding corridors. There were walkways bridging each of the buildings, and there was even an athletic center, though none of the students practiced athletics rigorously. The campus looked like something out of a science fiction novel, and when Devon had visited, she'd been enthralled by it. Every feature was designed to help enrich a writer's mind, hence the name of the academy. It was built upon secrets, too. Devon was sure of that. She grinned up at her mother. Behind that grin, of course, were a million worries and questions she wouldn't dare speak aloud. "You're in," her mother applauded. "It's a miracle." Devon was not particularly fond of that word. There are no miracles, she supposed, only coincidences and slim chances. Nepotism, she grumbled to herself, is probably a better word.
And that was Shanti Hersenson reading a sample chapter from her latest book, The Bane of Angelfall Academy. As always, click that link in the show notes for more from Shanti. And don't forget about our podcast friends, affiliate link with Writer's Block Coffee, and hit that subscribe button so you don't miss that next time when I'm back with a new author, a new book, and a brand new sample chapter. Take care, everyone, and we'll talk to you again real soon.